Alright, let's do a little leaf spring lesson real quick. This is how you make a jag fit on a Dodge.
Hey guys, Matt here with BleepinJeep. This video is brought to you by Onyx. Let me show you how to vote for us on our Holy Grail build. You're going to go to onyxmaps.com, go over here to Onyx Off-Road, and then you're going to click blog. You can follow this link, or you can just follow the link in the description below, which will take you straight here. Click right here, learn more, and vote for us for our Holy Grail build to further our chances of winning this challenge. One of the questions I do get a lot is if you need to pay to vote, and you don't need to pay to vote. You can just log in. You can also do a free 7-day trial, a premium membership, or an elite membership. One of the things that I like about the elite membership is if you click right here, you can learn more about it. You get private land boundaries and ownership info, which is what I love, so you can go check things out and see who owns the property if you're on somebody else's private property, and more information. Other things you get is more recent imagery and better rates on your favorite brands. So check out all these brands right here. Each one gives you discounts if you are an elite membership. So for example, Northridge 4x4, $150 off of $1,000 or more. And there's so many of these, it's a great opportunity. So check that out at onyxmaps.com. And if you do sign up, make sure to use the member discounts on our website, BleepinJeep.com, for 20% off. You can find that coupon code right here, BleepinJeep20, for 20% off on Onyx Maps.
So what we've got to accomplish today is we are going to get that Toyota that we bought. We're going to get it in the shop here, and we're going to start stealing parts off of it. We need to get the axle over onto this, but first we need to get the tires onto this thing. I think we're going to pull it out one more time. We're basically doing a frame off restoration at this point, and then hopefully by the end of the day we'll be able to get the front axle off of that Toyota and put it onto the Dodge there, and then we'll be able to see where the tires line up and move the chassis forward where it's going to fit correctly, and then we'll start messing around with the engine. That'll probably be tomorrow. That thing is a monster itself.
It is.
The thing is tall. Look at that monster in here. That's what we need right there. Fully built and ready to go. You think my Comanche is tall. It's actually very short compared to something like this. So just for reference, here's the tires that came off the Dodge. And these are the tires that are going on the Jag. They're a little bit bigger. So first we're going to rub these tires so that we can get the frame over there onto something at least. Is that going to hold it? Well, that was a huge waste of time. The brakes are wedged up against the wheel and it won't move. Wheel spacers are going back on temporarily. All that grease is gone, but where did it go? Alright, let it down. Here's what we're looking for. We're trying to fit the frame in the right spot for the car. So hopefully that flat spot of the car lands on the flat spot of the frame and then comes up right here into the wheel well. And then when we put the leaf springs on from the Toyota, we'll move that forward or backward to center this wheel in this opening. Actually, it's going to be further forward, because what we're going to do is end up cutting this much larger, but we're going to cut it larger on the front end because we can't cut it larger on the back end. That's where your feet go. So it's going to have to open up for a 42-inch size tire all out of the front. All right, if you remember, that was hitting here before. Looks like we're gonna have to readjust the where the lift is sitting. Well, so right there, the lift is gonna start hitting stuff. Alright guys, we're getting there. We've come up with our next issue, and that is we have about 4 or 5 inches to go to set this thing down, and we've hit a stop. So that stop is right up front, right where the radiator support is. So that leaves us with only one choice: cut that out, go with a different radiator, because the frame on this is narrower than the radiator that goes inside. So we're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to also remove this cross member right there, because it needs to go or be moved back anyway. And then right here, just need to shave off a little bit of the corner of those, whatever those things are, I don't know.
Ears.
Ears, you call them ears? Some part of the jag frame where the suspension went, we need to cut those. I want to leave them there because they might be great for body mounts, but we need to just shave them so that it'll squeeze in between here. So we're going to do that, then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to set this thing down. I was hoping that we could use the jag radiator, but it just doesn't look like that's going to be a thing. Back up. Alright, so I'm thinking we cut maybe right along this line.
Yep.
Close to there. Let's just, I don't think we'll be reusing it, but in case we were to do something with it, let's not booger it up too much.
Yeah.
Well, that works good. Oh man, see how much sand there is in that still? There's still sand coming up. You just washed this thing. Look at all that sand.
It's all dirty. Pull it back outside. Pressure wash it again.
Oh my goodness. Get rid of these big rivets like you find on an old car like this. You can cut them off or grind them off, the heads, and then you just use a big punch. Smack them out like that. There we go. They must have really not trusted their welders back in the day. Alright, let's see what we got now, guys. In another 5 minutes, we'll know. It's going. It's going. Stop. So where we're hitting now, there's a little bolt there. On the other side, it's actually on the frame. You got to remember though that we need about 1 inch space in there for body mounts. We're not down in the middle.
We need to go further forward.
Let's take a look in the back here. Oh yeah, we got some pretty good clearances back here. Problem is, if we go too far forward with the frame, then this part's gonna start hitting on the back end.
Right.
But yeah, we should probably go about 1 inch or 2 forward. So let's say that's where we were. is how you make a Jag fit on a Dodge. There's still sand coming out of this thing. We only had it in the sand one day.
One day.
That looks pretty good. It's a little high right here, but only because the floor is pushed up. Alright guys, what we're looking at now is how to mount this thing to the frame. The old body mounts for the Dodge were here, here, there. This Jag doesn't have solid mounting points. We have one back there, so we're going to figure out something to do back there. And we have one where the jack point is, right there, that little knob that sticks out. But we can't get to the top side of it because it's like inside the firewall somewhere. So, we're going to do a little trimming right up into there. Take a look, see what's hiding in here. Well, that's where it is. There's nothing inside there, but that's where it is, right in there. So we'll just weld that back and pretend that never happened right there.
I need to find my little scope. Borescope.
You got one?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have helped us here. We'd have just seen piles of rust.
Yeah. What are you talking about? It's a nice rust-free car.
Yeah, rust-free. Everybody on the internet said, you should have bought a rusty pile to build instead of that nice, beautiful Jag. Okay. Alright, so we know what needs to be done now. Josh left for the day. I'm just going to grind away, literally, sit here and grind away all these rivets to remove these old body mounts because obviously this new body is not going to fit that. We're going to try to reuse these, but they're going to need to go in a different place. We're going to forget these rivets. When I put them on, I'm just going to weld them in place. That's going to be a lot easier for me. But we've got options. We've got some here, some here, some here, and even one up there in the front. So here goes nothing. I'm going to put my headphones on and get to work. Welcome back, guys. It's a new day. Josh, what are you up to today over here?
I'm making body mounts.
Let's see it.
Let's see it.
Yeah.
See.
Alright, so, well, it's still in progress. But we're taking these body mounts off and we're positioning them where they need to go for the Jag. So this body mount right here is going to go and mount right up in there with some rubber in between, like so. So when you put a car on a frame, you have to have rubber separating them because the frame flexes and you don't want that to rip the car apart. He's also making one for the front because on the front we had to have it stick out quite far. We're trying to go to something strong on this car, and that is few and far between. What I'm doing over here is preparing this Toyota to pull the axle out of it. And I was about to pull it, and then I thought, you know what? Somebody took a lot of time to figure where all this stuff goes, and it may not be where it needs to go over here, but I would like to have a baseline. So what I did, I started over here. I marked X. X marks the spot. That's 31 inches off the ground. So it's sitting on its own weight. This is where it wants to be. And then I came over here and I said, okay, this bolt right here is minus 4x. So it's 4 inches below that bolt. This one is plus 2.5x. It's 2.5 inches above. This is my vertical line for the shackle. And I feel like that shackle should be like this, not out like this, but we'll address that later. The leaf spring to leaf spring outer edge is 31.25. From the center pin, so right here to that bolt, is 22.25. This is at 4 degrees, this is at 4.5 degrees. All these measurements are a little bit redundant, but what that's going to do, if I have any issues or want to know where anything should go, once I pull it over there, I'll have all the measurements of what this one was whenever it came off. And we know that it worked. We know that nothing was having issues. We know that the pinion angle was good. So if we try to match all of this stuff as best we can once we swap it over, we should have a good starting point. Even right here, I put 15 inches to spring. So we know that there was enough clearance here that the axle wasn't hitting the frame mount, and that was 15 inches between here. So if we have that or more on this side, we should be good as well. I also marked 49 inches. So that is this bolt, the top of the leaf spring mount with the shackle on it, to this bolt. So that'll kind of give me an idea of where this one sat, even though I'm thinking I'll flip this maybe and then put that shackle like this. That shackle angle just seems way off, because what that's going to do is when it compresses, instead of bending back like this, it's going to push up, which is not good. But now that I've got those measurements out of the way, I'm going to start pulling this, and we'll pull the axle on the Dodge and we will swap them around. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is get this truck off of its own weight. I've got jack stands under there to hold the frame in place. And so I basically just have to remove 4 bolts here, here, and on the other side, the shocks and the steering and the drive shaft. The steering is a little sloppy. We might have to work on that. So when Ian came over to the shop, at the end of his video that they made for Onyx, they said that I still haven't bought drive shafts and brake lines and some other things that were going to be expensive. Look at that. That is a nice stainless steel braided brake line, and this is a nice tractor spline drive shaft. Now if we have to extend them, we'll probably need to change the links, of course, but I plan on using as much stuff off of this truck as possible, and if we have to spline, re-weld, it's not really that big of a deal, and will save us a lot of money because drive shafts are expensive. You can do it. Alright, one built Dana 60 at your service. We've got gears in there, axle shafts, high steer knuckles, and steering, and leaf springs, and some custom shackles.
And a locker.
And a locker. How could I forget that? Alright, let's do a little leaf spring lesson real quick. So when you're setting up a leaf spring for comfort and for anything really, what you want is a certain angle. And you can see that this guy here, for whatever reason, probably because this was already where the shackle mount was, the leaf spring shackle here is at the wrong angle. And it's a pretty cool custom boomerang shackle that he's got here, but ideally I would think that you would want that the other direction. So you would want, let's pretend this is the shackle, you want that to be mounted like this, and this goes to the frame. And the reason that you do that is because when you hit a bump, when you compress, this leaf spring wants to straighten out, it wants to get longer. When you hit a compression, this thing is going to push up, that's going to push this out, and then this wants to get longer, but really all it's going to do is just shove upward on the body and create a really nasty bump, and it's going to be really rough on the suspension. If the shackle is like this instead, this thing has to get longer, and it just goes like this, it just pivots. So instead of having to overcome and kind of go backwards, this would almost try to go up like this, right? Because it's trying to get longer and it's got nowhere to go. It's trying to force this straight up, and it has to fight which direction it wants to go. Instead, you put your shackle like this, it goes up when you hit a bump. When you articulate, when you flex, it hangs and goes out like this, giving you a lot of travel. Leaf springs have way more travel than a lot of people think, and that is because of the way you set these up. Right now, the way this is set up, and this is the way it was in the truck, it doesn't have a lot of down travel because it's already at its max down travel. When you set it up like this, you've got a lot of down travel as that thing articulates out, and when it goes up, it's nice and soft. Look who came to visit us!
Howdy!
What do you think of our Holy Grail?
The Holy Grail?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Go stand over there, show people how tall it is.
You said it's going to be a couple inches shorter, right?
It'll be a couple inches shorter because we're going to put 1,000 pounds in the front. So it's going to sink a little bit. But right now, the hood of a car is just about as tall as your head is.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
All right, quitting time for today. We'll see you guys in the morning.
Bye, y'all.
All right, welcome back. So today, this morning, what we've been doing is getting the body mounts all situated. Got one here, and one here. And then the bed's gonna have its own thing going on. Good job on that, Joshua. This copper color right here is actually a weld-through primer. So it's a spray paint that you can then weld to, which is pretty cool. That way you can spray paint back here to keep from rusting behind where you're welding. Over here, I've been working on grinding these down to reuse them, which I should have just made new ones because it would have been a lot quicker, I believe. I just sat here for the last hour grinding on these stupid things, but at least we'll get to save a little bit of money and reuse those. So now we're going to roll this up under there. First we have to pull this axle off. Didn't want to leave its home. All this work for 30 years, being a great Dodge friend, and now it's almost time to do something cool and be part of a Jag. And you're just gonna pull it out. Whoa. The next thing we have to do is lower this back down and figure out where the axle needs to be front to back. And then we're going to tack this in place, and then we'll figure out what to do back here. As you can see, the hole where the previous one bolted is too far back, so we're probably going to need something more along the lines of right here. We need to put some weight on there though to compress these springs, and because when you do that, the spring is going to flatten out and get longer and change all the dimensions. So we're going to bring the car back down, try to line it back up and get everything situated. Everything's kind of precarious right now because the frame is being held up by a jack. This axle is just being held up by the frame, kind of sitting underneath it, but it's starting to look good there. Looks like we are going to have to move this cross member, which it got moved forward a foot, so we'll probably have to move it back by about a foot when it's all said and done. That should be right in front of the oil pan, or underneath the oil pan. Found this. I think that came out of the JL or something on the air condition, but we're gonna put this, maybe, might be too wide. We're gonna try to put this through that hole and get it situated and held still. There it is. Okay, now we have an issue in that this side is nowhere near. All right, we've reached the point of the suckiness of building with leaf springs. And the reason for that is you don't know what they're gonna do until you put weight on them. Everything can look great. You weld it all up like this, but we have another 1,000 pounds or more that's gonna go right there. And when that happens, everything is gonna change. So when you're building with leaf springs, it's really difficult because one, we don't know, what rate these leaf springs are, how much they're going to compress. The shackles end up changing everything if we change the length of the shackles, the height of where we mount the front here. So when you're doing a custom build like this, you can't just go to the parts store and say, oh, I want a 4-inch lift leaf spring for a 1985 Jaguar, because that's not a thing. So we're looking at angles, the pinion angle as well. We're looking at all kinds of things here. And I ran into this whenever I built the Comanche. It turned out really great, but we used slider boxes on the rear, which I like that idea as well. But there's just so many ways that you can do this. Right now, the leaf springs are kind of like this, so the front is higher than the back, but we're thinking that might change when we put weight on it. And we're gonna have to redo these anyway, so when we redo these guys here, we might make them shorter, which will bring this back end up. That will also change the pinion angle as well.
But you lose flex.
Flex is overrated.
If it's a race car.
Alright, so Josh just got these kind of mounted somewhat solidly, and we're gonna put some weight on it and see how flat these leaf springs get, because, well, these leaf springs came off of a Toyota that's much lighter and they were really stiff, so we're hoping that they'll be great on this, but we really don't know. Alright, so I'm gonna bring my tractor in here and see if we can push on it.
Didn't seem to move it all that much.
Okay, we decided we need more weight. Jump on it! Let me remove the counterbalance and then we'll add some... I'll pick up something heavy. I could pick up that motor and we could just set it on there.
I don't know if you can pick up that motor.
Well, if I'm going to, it's going to be with that counterbalance.
Yeah.
Alright, let's find something. Something. Let me show you what we're looking at here. Look how flat the leaf spring is now with all that weight on it. It's got quite a bit. And the shackle now is at a better angle. You can see that this bolt is behind this bolt, which I like. Just got to be careful that whenever it completely flattens out, that it doesn't hit or contact here, which I don't think it would. Might could go forward with the front mount about an inch or two. So basically bringing this bolt forward an inch or two, and that will straighten out. That will take that from this to more like that. What I'm worried about is that if it comes all the way back and hits here, it'll clunk every time. Yeah, the tire is, you can see the tire is right about there, and whenever that tire turns and swings and flexes at the same time, it's going to be rubbing up in there. So I would say maybe 2 inches forward, but then when the tire flexes, it's going to be rubbing up in here. Obviously we're going to have to cut a lot of this out up here to clearance for this tire. Got to keep the headlight though, so I got to figure out how to keep that headlight. So what we wanted to do was turn the tire, but I don't know with that much weight are we going to be able to turn it. One thing I also want to mention is that as we're setting this up, whatever we decide here, that's our lift. So there's only, what did we decide, 4 ways to add lift with leaf springs? One of those is to build down here, so I could make this mount lower. That's going to add lift. At the same time, if I did that, I would change the angle of my pinion if I didn't add longer shackles here. The other way to do that would be a lift block, so you could add a lift block there, but for off-road purposes, especially on a front end, you definitely don't want to do lift blocks. And then the third way would be to have a spring that's more arched, but that is going to lead to other issues like a bouncy ride and no flex. So I really like leaf springs that are really flat when they have all the weight on them. You can see this one is starting to get there. If you look at my Comanche leaf springs, they're pretty flat. You can see that there's not a lot of arch to them, and that creates a really soft ride. And these are those slider boxes I was talking about. You can do slider boxes like this instead of a shackle, and so instead of pivoting on that shackle, this just slides back and forth in this little box right here. Alright, we're going to do some measurements and keep working on this thing. Okay, we made some little marks there, did a little measuring. Next we're going to try to turn the tire and see what happens. Okay, so what we're looking for, we're really concerned about if the tire is going to hit where the footwell is, because we can't open that up much.
And the frame.
And if it's going to contact the frame, which that can just be a rub point. I don't care about that so much. But what I really care about is trying to cut into there where my feet are. A car wasn't really made for this, but now I need to put weight on it while it's turned, so. Alright, so what we're looking for there is ride height, basically, with weight on the vehicle. We can't flex it. Leaf springs are very difficult to flex until you've got them permanently mounted, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Did I tell you guys leaf springs are a pain in the butt? I like them, but they're a pain in the butt to set up custom suspension with. Well, we knew we were going to clear up here. I think if we clear to right underneath there, we'll be fine, don't you?
Yeah.
With the flex? We'll just have to limit the flex, maybe, just like I did with the Comanche.
That's all I've got for you today. This thing is coming together really quick. Until next time, here's some more videos for you to check out. We'll see you then.